Better Call Saul is, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows in television history. I have certainly discussed it at length, but truly never get tired of doing so. I'll drop links in the description below to my past BCS-centric videos. In a few of them, I talk about my favorite episodes of the series, which really only constitutes maybe 30% of the show's overall episodic content. So today I'm going to be discussing every single solitary episode of this impeccable series, while ranking them from my least favorite to favorite. Though I must mention that when it comes to this show, Saul's Parent series, or a favorite series of films of mine like the Harry Potter movies, my least favorite chapter is still a really enjoyable piece. Number 63. This episode is expectedly solid. It's just less so eventful than the others. It's more of a transitional episode. We get more insight into Mike's soft side and the lengths he will go to in the name of his family's comfort as he stakes out on his daughter-in-law's street for hours on end to personally assure her safety. We get an always welcomed appearance from the vet, Dr. Caldera, and an intriguing ending that teases a potential future partnership between Mike and Nacho. 62. Jimmy's Fifi-centric ruse at the airbase is as hilarious as it is disrespectful. While it's unfortunate for Kim, but quite cool to see Chuck really display his lawyer prowess as he tries and succeeds in nabbing Mesa Verde from Miss Wexler. 61. Rico introduces a great supporting character in Rich Schweikert during one of the series' most humorous moments, in which Jimmy searches through a filthy, horrid dumpster for shredded paper that he eventually learns was being housed in a nice clean recycling bin 10 feet away from him. We get a brief, rare glimpse at professional unity between the brothers McGill, evidently having been a lifelong dream of Jimmy's, while a seed is planted, which is effectively paid off in the subsequent episode, in regards to quote-unquote Howard's refusal to work alongside Jimmy at HHM. 60. We get the return of the legendary Slippin' Jimmy, and we're witness to the execution of Nacho's medication switcheroo plot against Hector. The scene is viscerally intense, thanks in large part due to a combination of the direction, editing, and pinpoint cinematography. 59. This episode really puts into motion Nacho's plot to take out Hector, which is awesome and tense. It's great to see the return of an on-screen dynamic that has always been great, humorous fun. The immensely contrasting duo consisting of Ignacio Varga and Daniel Wormold, while Jimmy's clever community service hustle is an absolute blast. 58. We truly get the most effective car crash sequence I've ever witnessed, thanks in large part due to the stellar editing and sound design, and this vehicular accident is perfectly and naturally set up in this episode, and prior to it in the form of the similarly edited piece in which Kim jarringly awakens from a car nap, as well as her ever-increasing, evidently overwhelming workload. We're also given a scene between Nacho and his sweet, honorable father, Manuel, their meetings always being emotional, powerful, and Chuck, sadly, though creatively effectively, officially gains a new adversary in the form of longtime business partner and friend Howard Hamlin. 57. Inflatable provides us with an exceedingly fun montage, focusing on Jimmy's devious but humorously entertaining plot to get himself fired from Davis and Maine. It's got this distinct visual style and introduces us to what would become Saul Goodman's vast classic collection of colorful and inherently rebellious dress shirts. 56. I'm always grinning when the kooky Kettlemans are involved. Jimmy and Mike's collective takedown of them is so fun and unsurprisingly creative. Said clever scheme involves a Tonka truck, a blacklight, as well as Mike's notorious patience and expert observational skills. 55. Mike's coconut shoe stunt is so goddamn cool and creative. It's also preceded by a return from Gus's doctor, to whom we were introduced back in Breaking Bad. The execution of transferring the coke remnants from the hanging shoes to Hector's truck is simply genius, as before Mike snipes the sneakers, while the drivers are stopped, he sporadically shoots into the air to familiarize them with the sound of pretty constant gunfire, so as not to get suspicious when Mike ultimately shoots the coke-filled shoes as they're dangling over the truck. It is such a brilliantly conceived plot. We then get a fun and momentous, in regards to the score, sequence in which this lightly powdered truck and its drivers are stopped, searched, and seized once they reach the border. 54. I dig the practical and slow-burning Mike storyline as he tries to discover who is behind prohibiting him from sniping Hector Salamanca via some visually wicked time lapses. We also get a rare moment of levity and reminiscing between the McGill boys before we're reminded by a stern Charles that the Chuck v. Jimmy storyline has officially commenced, and he will not rest until Jimmy has paid for what he did to him in regards to the numbers switcheroo plot. 53. This episode features the most in-depth look thus far at what we unmistakably learn here is a mental, not physical issue. Chuck's doctor states very matter-of-factly, after displaying for Jimmy, that Charles' disease is a manifestation of something deeper. And this very clear and early revelation adds such a tremendous amount of dimension to Chuck. Fun fact about this episode's title. Looking at the first season's titles, you might notice a theme. Uno, Miho, Nacho, etc. 105 is evidently the outlier here. Well, the story is that the initial plan was to title this episode Jell-O, but the Saul team wasn't able to clear this with Jell-O, the actual trademarked brand. So instead the episode was titled Alpine Shepherd Boy. 52. Ray Seahorn does a beautiful job in her directorial debut. Hit and Run is a solid piece within the puzzle that is part 1 of season 6. We also get this really cool encounter that I never expected occurring between Kim and Mike. Hit and Run even provides us with an appearance from Breaking Bad alum Wendy, the root beer guzzling prostitute. 51. I absolutely adore the scene in which Ignacio parkours his way in and out of a building to retrieve dope before the authorities get to their stash. A highlight of the scene being Lalo in his vehicle watching Nacho like an action movie as he munches nuts. Perhaps, wee bit hard to tell, but he snacks on them like he's eating popcorn at the cinema. We're also witness to the origin of Breaking Bad alum Domingo's nickname, Crazy 8. 50. Black and Blue depicts the planting of a couple very intriguing seeds in the form of P.I. Janadowski's introduction, as well as Gus, ironically, planting a weapon deep within his underground lair and future lab. After being absent for a few episodes, Lalo returns in extremely cool and interesting and typically imposing fashion. I truly never expected meeting Margaret Ziegler, widow of the late Werner, let alone Lalo meeting her. Every moment in which these two are even in the same proximity is filled with this uncomfortable, foreboding tension. 49. We get the best of the black and white season openers as we're fully introduced to Jeff, the prying cab driver, and we get the BCS debut of the late Breaking Bad alum Robert Forster, who portrays the exceedingly intriguing and mysterious Ed the Vacuum Repairman, while Lalo's continued quest to ultimately take down Gustavo is perpetually riveting. 48. The odd and exceedingly complicated relationship between Jimmy and Howard continues to intrigue, while we get a welcomed second consecutive Better Call Saul appearance from the classic duo consisting of the great Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez. 47. This episode features a number of notable character introductions, as we get our first BCS appearance from the ever-intriguing Lydia Rodart Quayle, our first official appearance of Saul Goodman, fittingly via TV commercial, as well as the BCS debut of the now infamous Laundry. We also get the quiet commencement of the Nacho Hector medication plotline, only after a tense meeting between Hector and Manuel Varga. 46. We're provided with a welcomed consecutive appearance from the humorously moronic Price. His new Hummer, with this sort of Ronald McDonald aesthetic, is so ridiculous and hilariously lame, perfectly fitting for his delightfully dweeby character. We also get a scam starring Victor and Giselle Sinclair, and featuring Breaking Bad alum Ken the Douchebag. 45. The Squat Cobbler concoction by Jimmy for Mr. Naivete himself, Daniel Wormold, is one of Mr. McGill's most outrageous cons. Everything in regards to this Price's Stolen Baseball Card-centric storyline is a f***ing blast, featuring multiple humorously contrasting character combinations. 44. It's great fun watching Jimmy's ultimately successful investigation into the Kettlemans with Mike's assistance, while Ignacio establishes himself early on here as an interesting and imposing presence. 43. This episode presents to us a quietly tense black and white opening, while the ending commences this effective side story of guilt and vulnerability in regards to Howard, and deeply, bizarrely, and tragically repressed grief and resentment in regards to Jimmy. There are just so many complex and subtly and intriguingly conveyed emotions brewing as a result of Chuck's death.